video, we are going to download and install RapidMiner and then take a look at it real briefly and maybe install some extensions. Before we do that, let's take a minute and I'll walk you through the path that got me to RapidMiner. When I started looking at implementing machine learning into teaching and learning, I looked around for some easy to use tools. I had worked for Hyperion Solutions, and we had a number of graphical drag and drop data integration tools that we used. And when I ran across this book by Matthew North, Data Mining for the Masses, it used a tool called RapidMiner that reminded me a lot of the tools we used back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So as I downloaded and started working with RapidMiner, I found, this is a good tool. It provides a lot of the concepts without making you learn how to code. Now, those of you who will get into data mining, machine learning as a full-time occupation, then you'll probably want to springboard from RapidMiner into full-blown learning paths that include tools like Python, R, Julia, and some of the other newer languages that are coming down the road as well, and some of the additional tools. But RapidMiner is a pretty strong tool that provides a lot of capabilities and keeps you in that graphical environment that has you learning through concepts, not necessarily through coding. So anyway, step forward a few years, and one thing I do, my company back when I was with Anderson and most companies I've been with since then tend to use Gartner a lot, and it's kind of a barometer for what's going on in the technology world for a lot of companies, thousands of customers, and they are a good guideline to see what is popular and what some of the trends are in the field. So this is the Magic Quadrant that they put out periodically for various markets. This is the last one I was able to find without becoming a Gartner subscriber myself for the data science and machine learning platform space. So if you take a look there, you can see a lot of the big players, SAS, IBM, Dataiku, MathWorks, TIBCO, Databricks, all up there in the leaders quadrant. That's usually where companies want to go, into the leaders quadrant. You can see Microsoft and Amazon Web Services down there in the visionaries and up towards the threshold there. And when it comes to cloud machine learning, they are the two leaders. Amazon Web Services first, I believe, and then Microsoft, Google's right up there as well. Now you take a look at RapidMiner, it's down there in the visionaries quadrant as well, along with NIME, which is a Swiss-based, I believe, open source machine learning tool that looks and works a bit like RapidMiner. Then over there, you can see in the challengers area, a company called Alteryx, which has come on strong in the last 5 to 8 years, and started off with data prep and is moving into the machine learning world as well. Now, all of these tools are moving toward the cloud. And as such, I had shifted my courses and my training to Azure Machine Learning, which had a free platform that they would use for students and educational purposes. They did away with that and migrated everybody to their standard Azure ML platform. And what they did instead was they gave you some startup cash to get going with, but it was easy to burn through that startup cash very quickly if you did some serious analysis, which even as a student, you want to give them some good data sets to work with. All right, so that ended up becoming a little problematic as we had to get back to a paid model. So I started looking back towards free alternatives again, or at least free for academics. NIME, obviously free for everybody unless you move into their server world. RapidMiner has free access to their software for educational purposes. Same with Alteryx. You have to jump through a couple more hoops to get access to the Alteryx software, but they will work with you. So that takes us to today. And if I go back up here, you can see a few of the leaders, and Gartner is now calling this space the multi-persona data science and machine learning platforms, as companies are building and acquiring additional tools and capabilities and working on different platforms. So you can see here recently, Altair acquired RapidMiner. And so RapidMiner is now one of Altair's wide-ranging products in the business intelligence, data analytics, machine learning, AI space. Alteryx still working independently. Nime still working as an open source software company with some paid tiers that you can work with. So 3 tools coming from different directions. Nime and RapidMiner started off with machine learning, moved into data prep. Alteryx started off with data prep, is moving more and more and rapidly into machine learning. So all 3 tools are certainly viable alternatives. One of the reasons I like RapidMiner is you can, and Nime for that matter, is you can download a copy whether you're running on a Windows or a Mac machine. All right, so let's get to RapidMiner. First thing we do is we go to the RapidMiner website. As we look at the site, of course, they scroll a lot of their clients down across the bottom. And if I go to the top menu here, I can see an option down here, RapidMiner for academics. So when I click on that, and of course, if you're not an academic, you will have to get yourself a license one way or another through your company or as part of your business. When we go to RapidMiner for academics, we can say, okay, let's download the studio and get going with the, and you can see the educational license gives us a lot of capabilities that we don't have through the free version, which anybody can download. So you can download a free version of RapidMiner, but it places some limitations on what you can do. One of the most onerous limitations is it won't process more than 10,000 rows of data. Once I get to the RapidMiner for academics page, I can click the download studio right here, and it will ask me what I'm using it for. I'm using it for education, of course. So I'll fill in my name, first name, last name, university, my role at the university. Am I a student or an instructor or some kind of a researcher? I will type in my academic email address. And then if I don't have an account already with RapidMiner or Altair, I can create my password and register. So at that point, I will be logged in and I can then download the product. So here's what the downloads page looks like. And eventually, it's usually pretty quick, you will get an email that verifies your registration and will give you a key that allows you to use RapidMiner. Also, if you go to your account, you can see the different downloads you have available and all the licenses you have for RapidMiner. So I've got a number that have expired in years past, and I've got the studio that I can download now. I can always download the free version. Doesn't have an expiration date with it, and I get a 10,000 row limit. But for the educational, I've got 4 months left on my current subscription, and I can view my license key here. But importantly, you can download the studio, which is what I use for my class, a Windows version or a Mac version, or if you're working on a Linux computer, a Linux version. So to do that, go ahead and click on the version you need, and then you can watch the video while you save this download somewhere on your computer, and then watch the download complete. So I'll pause the video and we'll come back after my download has completed. All right, now that I have downloaded RapidMiner, the installation file, I go find it. And if you have a Mac, your RapidMiner install file will look something like this with the DMG extension. although yours will also be, like mine, the current version 10.1.2 as I record this video. All right, so now I just press enter, start the install process. RapidMiner asks for me to install, and I click yes. And I do have I'm going to cancel. One thing that's not a bad idea, if you can, is when you do run this, you might want to run it as an administrator. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I do have a version of RapidMiner already installed, so I'll go ahead and click OK to uninstall the previous version, and it will go ahead and install the new version for me. And of course, you can watch all the files zip by if you would like. Okay, once the install has finished, you can go ahead and launch RapidMiner just by clicking that button. I'll go ahead and minimize my file explorers. And you can see what's happening is the main program starts up, and then it starts to install any extensions that I've added to RapidMiner. So that makes your startup take a little bit longer when you do run it, and it causes RapidMiner to use a bigger memory footprint. So if you've got modest resources on your laptop, you may want to be judicious with the number of extensions that you add to RapidMiner. When you start up RapidMiner, you get a little opening screen that looks like this, and you can actually find some templates to start with, and that's nice. You can see if you want to do some modeling on churn or create a lift chart. You can use one of those templates to just sort of see how that might work. We are typically going to start with a blank process because we want to learn how the process works from beginning to end as we work our way through our methodology, CRISP-DM. You can also see it'll give you a copy of recent processes you've worked on, and also take you to the RapidMiner Academy, where you can work your way through some tutorials on how to do different things, and also see the documentation for RapidMiner online. There's also a community, pretty active community with lots of information on how to do various things on RapidMiner. So all of those are useful resources that you can take advantage of while you're using RapidMiner. All right, so now let's get back. I'll say blank process, and you can see what we have here is a template. If you've done any development work in the past, this may look kind of familiar because a lot of coders will use a system like this where you've got your coding window in the middle with all kinds of different tools, libraries, and modules that you can call, documentation, and so forth. All right, and just like those, you can move these things around and close them and open them back up. One nice thing you can do is if you go to View and restore the default view. So it's real easy to just, I don't want that. Oh no, how do I get it back? Or I get rid of everything, and now I've just got my big blank workspace to work with, the process space. Well, how do I put something in here? Well, I could go to View and restore the default view. One thing you see here, down here, is RapidMiner actually, eats its own dog food, I guess. They have done a lot of evaluation of the way people use the tool, and so they have incorporated this wisdom of the masses into the product itself so that, well, if you don't know where to start, a lot of people are going to go retrieve some data. So I may pull that in here and go to work. And then I may want to filter my examples as I start to do some data prep. And so there's lots of different recommendations that you'll see as you start working with the tool. Last thing for this video, RapidMiner comes with a fair number of what we call operators. These are various tools. There's the retrieve that they were recommending that you can bring in from that operator's pane over here in the lower left-hand corner into the process workspace. But RapidMiner comes with a number of them, but there are lots of others that are available out there. So if I go to the extensions menu up here in the top menu, application menu, I can click on Marketplace and search for a specific extension if I know what I want, but I can also look at the most popular extensions, text processing. All right. So I've already got that installed. You can see, but it needs an update. The operator toolbox package is up to date. Web mining. So a lot of these look like I have the version 9 extension in from, I just basically upgraded when I installed this. There's also, you can see the top rated ones. If you've actually bought any or purchased some, you can see those. You would log into your RapidMiner account to see those. And then same with bookmarks that you can create. All right. So a lot of the top downloads are worth installing. I definitely recommend Operator Toolbox, text processing, statistics, and that might be a good starter set of extensions to add. So what I do if I add a new one, let's say I wanted to add the RapidMiner Finance and Economics extension. I don't have that one yet. I'll select that for installation. Okay. And I can go ahead and choose other ones as well. I think I have all the top downloads already installed. So let's see if I can find some other top rated ones. Lifestyle marketing. No thanks. Advanced reporting. Okay, so that's not a bad idea. So let's go ahead. I'll install that one. But you may just want to stick with the first 3 I recommended. One thing to remember is each extension that you do add to RapidMiner will cause it to take a little longer to load every time you start it up. All right, so I install these 2 packages. And this is the way you will do it as well. And I can read the licensing for each individual package. I can accept the terms for all license agreements. I have to do that before it will actually allow me to install them. So now it says I've updated my extensions. For them to be applied, I have to restart RapidMiner. Well, I don't want to do that now, so I'm going to click no. But another thing you will find is I go into extensions and I click the marketplace again, I can look for updates. So it's going to look through all of my currently installed extensions and show me which ones have an update available. So I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll select all updates. I'll install all 5 packages. Go ahead and click the accept terms. And now this time, when it asks me to restart RapidMiner, I can say yes. So I'll say yes, RapidMiner. I don't need to save what I've done. I haven't really created a process, so I'll say no. And RapidMiner will start back up. So that is downloading and installing RapidMiner, plus a few key extensions that you might want to work with. One last thing you probably want to do is make sure that your license is active on RapidMiner itself. So if you go to Settings, Manage Licenses, you can see here I already have my license set up, but I can sync licenses from my account. So if you do that, I can log into my account and install my licenses that way. Another way I can do it is to enter the license myself. So remember I told you earlier that when you register for your educational license, they'll email you a license and you should have it, but it's also available to you on the RapidMiner website under licenses. So I go to RapidMiner Studio, I can find my studio, and I click and view my license key. So what I can do is I can open that up, view it, and you can see it when you open yours up, it's pretty big. So the best thing to do is just select the whole thing and copy it. And then we'll go back over to RapidMiner and you can enter your license that way. So now, assuming you don't have one, so if yours comes up blank before you put your license in, now you can just paste the license that was in your account and install it. Once you do that, it will activate it, check it out. You can also sync your licenses from your account like we mentioned. And at that point, I've got my unlimited data rows, and I can also use multiple logical processors on my computer. Most computers do have multiple virtual processors in the CPU. RapidMiner, the free version, only lets you use one of them. Studio educational version will let you use all of them if you want, or however many you want. All right, so I believe that covers everything we might need for this installation video. Let's get back and see what we'd like to do next.